Okay, we are live, but we got to let it breathe just for a moment. Let's make sure we get Facebook connected. And after a busy news day, this better not be one of those nights that Facebook and StreamYard have a hard time communicating. We're good on YouTube, I see. I'm going to let Mr. Producer take it from here on whether or not Facebook works out. But welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. And Zack, boy, oh boy, we talk about often on this show how, in the NFL, everything is mandated by the deadline, right? Like you don't start seeing action until you're butting up against a deadline. And that applied to all 32 teams, generally speaking. Today, really over the last 2 days or so, flurry of moves. Including, we'll talk more about this. Broncos re-signed Jarrett Stidham, so he's back in the fold. They re-signed long snapper Mitchell Fraboni back in the fold. We'll talk about those, but first things first, Zack, I got to get your take on DK Metcalf being dealt up and over the Rockies, across the fruited plain to Pittsburgh.
It's a good move for the Steelers, and I guess for Seattle to get a 2025 second-round pick and not having to settle for anything less. But from the Pittsburgh point of view, you're pairing a still pretty elite receiver with another up-and-coming elite receiver in George Pickens. They don't have a quarterback right now, so that's kind of a problem, but I heard they could be in on Sam Darnold. That would be a high-floor option. I like it for them, and I didn't think it was ever realistic for Denver, DK coming here, so we can put that to rest now officially, Chad.
Not only that, but Davante Adams. Scott, I don't know if you saw this one too. Davante Adams signing with the Los Angeles Rams.
That was an overpay.
Yeah, what were the terms on that? Do you recall?
I think it was 2 for 46, so 23. I could be wrong.
In times like this, I'm not going to lie. I like to keep it with Pro Football Talk because they crank out the information so fast, just little short 100-word articles. You get everything that you need. So I don't want to derail our conversation too much on the details of Davante. If I can't find it in just a few seconds, but I'll find it later. Zack, what was actually kind of more of a shot to the heart, it was a Bon Jovi to the heart. Was first old news. Zach Bond gets re-signed by Philly. Then over the weekend, we're going, okay, at least Nick Bolton still cruising for free agency. Nope. Chiefs re-signed him. And then today, the third dagger, the Vikings, depending on your take, in my opinion, it was a bummer. The Vikings re-signed Aaron Jones. So 3 guys who had been heavily linked to the Broncos. Remember, free agency is about filling needs, and all those guys fit massive needs in Denver off the board.
Yeah, my shot to the heart was Jamie and Sherwood, the inside linebacker from the Jets, another one re-signing with his current team. So they're down to basically like Dre Greenlaw right now. Robert Spillane, I heard, is an interesting candidate for the Broncos to look at. They should go after and throw some money at that position, Chad. I think both of us are in agreement with that. Spend money there and focus the draft on the offense. But it is, kind of disheartening that a few of their targets now are officially off the board.
Yeah, if I go to over the cap, I don't know how quickly they're updating these signings. Dre Greenlaw, right? Still available. Yep. Jerome Baker, still available. Anyway, linebacker. I'm not going to say too much more because I haven't followed every little move so far today. There's been so many, and I don't want to mention the guy that's already been re-signed. But I think Spillane, he's up there. Zach, as you mentioned. We'll see. But hey, Papa Bear in the house with a super chat. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, David.
Appreciate you so much. He says, good evening, Broncos country. Hashtag God bless the USA. Let's go Bo. MHH for life. Buckham times 3. Denver Broncos for life. And the madness begins. Woohoo. Remember that song? David probably doesn't know this song, but woohoo. And you will have me. Blur. Dude, I can't remember. I can't believe I remembered that. But yeah, David, dude, bro, Papa Bear, it's happening, baby. Max Rio, up there north of the 49th parallel, proven every single day. The Broncos country is not a geographic location. It's a state of being, baby. He says, evening, gents. Would you guys rather have Tyler Lockett or Amari Cooper as a veteran receiver? Also, do we try to bring Von Miller home? That's another big piece of news today. Bills released Von. MHH for life, hashtag take the West, hashtag go Broncos. Interesting question, Zach. If you were to keep it limited to just one of those two receivers, which one would you rather see the Broncos bring in?
That's tough because they're kind of both on the downslope of their career. They're both kind of the same mold of receiver. I don't know, man. I would say Lockett. I think he's been more reliable more recently, but they're both, again, kind of on the downslope. And with Vaughn, you want to bring him back for a one-day contract to retire a Denver Bronco. I am 100% all for that. That should happen. But to bring him back and give him playing time over Jonah Ellis and Tillman and the rest of the younger guys, I don't know about that. It's another player like, Lockett or Cooper that is on the downside of their career, unfortunately.
That's the emotional aspect goes, are you kidding? You bring Vaughn back if you can bring him back. But you go, okay, well, at whose expense, right? Because he's well past the wrong side of 30. Your top two rush linebackers combined for 24 sacks, the most by a duo since Vaughn and Chubb in 2018. I think it was 26 between them that they combined. And then look, Jonah Ellis going into year two, Dondre Tillman year two. You could say, I'd rather have Vaughn rushing as the third guy in or whatever than either of those two guys. But he's very much on an accelerated downswing, guys, and you'd be taken away from two guys that really, Jonah hit the rookie wall. I would say the last quarter of the season, he became minimally effective. But Zach, that first, 10, 12 games of the season, which is basically that stretch of time his body is accustomed to playing football, man, he was effective. 5 sacks. Not easy to do for rookies coming in as a backup. Vaughn had whatever it was, 10.5 as a rookie, but he was a starter day one, never left the field. Taylor, what's up, bro? Great to see you, big dog. Thank you for the super chat. He says, while a wild day in the NFL, free agent re-signings, who do we sign now? Yeah, Zach, we've touched on quite a few of the dominoes that have fallen, much to, I think, Broncos country's chagrin. So with some of these guys who are left over, by the way, on the subject of Davante Adams' deal with the Rams, 2 years, $46 million, basically a 1-year deal for $26 million guaranteed. But, they have an option after the first year. So big dollars going to him. I'm surprised. But then again, Zach, they're staying all in with Matthew Stafford remaining in the fold. They're pushing for that Super Bowl window. So it'll be interesting. But what is your answer here for Taylor?
I think the Rams are paying for the name of Davante Adams more than anything else, but that's really their problem. The Broncos should really start in-house before tomorrow gets going, this week gets going with the tampering period and free agency. I would extend Zach Allen because the pass rushers around the NFL are not getting any cheaper, and Zach Allen, he wants a new deal. Both of us agree, Chad. I think he deserves a new deal. He wants about 25. It's not that expensive. Myles Garrett just got re-signed. It didn't get any easier, so I would extend him. The other news of the day that kind of got buried is that Chris Godwin, your boy, could in fact reach the open market. That he hasn't resigned with Tampa Bay yet. So that's another guy that I would maybe consider throwing some money at. And safety like Javon Holland, he's great. Hufanga, he's also serviceable. So there's some good players left for sure, Chad.
I kept calling him Eric Reed when I've talked about him on the show, but Justin Reed was a guy I liked a lot too throughout free agency. Some underrated moves going on as far as the Broncos so far. They didn't bring back Javonte Williams yet. There's a little asterisk there. They brought back Jarrett Stidham. They brought back their long snapper Mitchell Fraboni on a 3-year extension. Underrated moves, and maybe you could even say a guy like Fraboni, Zach, has been an underdog, including, I guess, even Stidham, their whole NFL career. And speaking of underdog guys, listen, it was a clunky segue, but hang with me on this, okay? It's basketball season. It's raging. And when your favorite star scores, we're going to give you an alley-oop opportunity to win some coin from watching sports with Underdog. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play right now in your state. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? Well, listen up. You can with Underdog.
To play, choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats, like points, assists, rebounds, and more. Underdog's got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Create entries with all basketball picks or mix and match across other sports. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into $1,000 just with your hoops knowledge.
Guys, join us in having so much more fun while you're watching sports with Underdog. Download the app. use our promo code MHuddle to unlock that special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Again, guys, join in with your football priests on the fun when you sign up with promo code MHuddle. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado. For some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
All right, we go back to the chat, and we've got the Lady D jumping in from the tippity top rope.
Thank you.
She is, of course, the reigning winner of the latest jersey raffle that we did Thursday night. And here she is supporting the channel just with immense, just I don't know how to say it, Lady D. Just thank you so much. It means a lot to Zach and I and Scott this time of year, especially. We could use it when we talk about keeping the lights on. Believe it really does help us. So thank you. And by the way, check your Twitter DM. I had 2 additional questions to get the jersey thing lined out. So just get back to me on that. You might have already done it, but just not last time I checked. Thank you, D. She says, evening, Chad, Zach, and Scott. Hit the like button. It's important. Yes, it is. Very important. Vaughn for one day, I'm okay with, but anything else on him, I pass. We need to shore up our offensive line for Bo. I'm fine with Stidham, hashtag MHH for life. Echoing the Papa Bear, God bless the USA, and Knicks for 6. I love it. Thank you, Deanna Hendry. You are thebomb.com.
Yeah, Deanna, thank you so much. I know it probably sounds repetitive, but Chad and I are eternally grateful for everything you do every single time that you do it. So heart goes out to you. Thank you so much. The thing, we're in agreement on Vaughn for sure. The offensive line, though, I think they're pretty set and forget otherwise, Chad. I mean, 4 of 5 spots are pretty much secured. They could look for a center, maybe an upgrade, a veteran, a draft pick, whatever, but they're confident, I feel like, Chad and Deanna, that they're going to go into the season with the same returning front 5.
One thing to keep in mind, Lady D, is the Broncos' offensive line was ranked top 1 or 2, depending on the outlet. ESPN, I want to say Zach was number 1 in pass block win rate.
Yeah.
I think run block win rate as well. And then they finished as the 2nd ranked O-line on PFF. But obviously the weak link on that starting 5 is the center. And, this is a contract year for Luke Wattenberg. Zach, I'm thinking that the team's general posture is, hey, let's ride it out with him in a contract year. Let him be our center. But that doesn't mean they're not going to bring someone in. I don't think they'll spend per se in free agency. I mean, we haven't even looked, Zach, at what the free agent center options are. But we do know they have taken an interest in the interior offensive line options in the draft. So it's something to keep in mind. I would be shocked if they didn't draft one. I'm not saying 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round. Although if Zabel's there at 20, do not look that gift horse in the mouth. Just take him because it's a deep tight end class, deep running backs, receivers across the board. Just take him if he's there. But maybe Zach, the offensive line doesn't get enough credit. And by the way, Bo Nix was he finished 3rd for the least sacks in the NFL. They did a good job, and Bo Nix did a good job as well, Zach, complimenting and making it a little bit easier on the big guys.
He did a terrific job as a rookie, for sure. He wasn't put in many good positions some of the time, and he helped out everyone around him. And I think you might be right about center with Wattenberg. The last time they left their incumbent in a contract year, Lloyd Cushenberry had his best year of his career and got paid the next offseason. So I think they might go the same route there, Chad.
Okay, so Zach, details on the and guys, keep your questions coming. Anything specific? If we miss any breaking news while we're live, make sure you smash it in the chat. Don't forget to like, guys. We really need those likes. It's huge for us. If you're on YouTube and Facebook, smash the like button. But Zach, the terms on the terms on let's grab this first from the Duchess, Michaela Parker jumping in, making me stutter over here. The ladies of MHH once again leading the way. Love you, Michaela. Thank you so much. Hope mom's doing well. Hope you've had a great weekend. She's got linebacker on the brain here, Zach, saying, "Hi guys, what is your opinion on Sherwood as a price-friendly linebacker, Zach?"
Unfortunately, Michaela, thank you so much as always. Same with Lady D. Like, I know it sounds repetitive, but we are always eternally forever grateful for what you do for the show. Thank you. He's gone. He re-signed with the Jets on a 3-year, $45 million contract. I think 15 a year, something in that range. So that's going to be the market price. There were 3 inside linebackers that re-signed. The cheapest one was 11. The highest was 15. So if the Broncos want one on the open market, Michaela, whoever it may be, like Robert Spillane, it's probably going to fall in that range.
So I'm looking at, and by the way, guys, you gotta, even though we say these things all the time about our gratitude and how much we appreciate our super chat superstars and MHH community, some of you, it might sound repetitive, but I'm telling you right now, get used to it, because this is genuinely how we feel.
Yes.
And one of the reasons I think we have such a supportive community like this is because we're genuine about that. We're not acting too cool for school and taking this for granted and just quickly moving on to the next. We genuinely value and appreciate our supporters, the donations. These are hard-earned dollars Michaela's worked for, Lady D, Taylor, Max, David, tonight, and they're donating it to us. We take that as a tremendous honor, and we're always going to make sure the people who support us feel that love, because they're showing us the love. All right. So hang with us. Hopefully you guys can understand that. But Zach, I'm coming back to the free agent pool, and Spot Rack is being a little bit more on top of it in terms of who's still available relative to over the cap. So here's the names, and this might not be perfect. Again, maybe there's 1 or 2 of these guys that have been re-signed and they've missed it or we've missed it. But Devondre Campbell, no thanks. Tyler Dodson, Willie Gay, Eric Kendricks, Cody Barton, Denzel Perryman. Those are your top options, followed by Neville Hewitt and Devin Bush. So that's what kind of remains now on the veteran linebacker market. And I mean, even Cody Barton, who basically came in last year, Zach, for not much more than the veteran minimum that I recall off the top of my head. They have his market value set at $2.5 million. And I would say he actually earned a raise. Even as flawed as he was at times, especially down the stretch, he produced a triple-digit tackle season, had his fingers on multiple takeaways. He was reliable. Just don't expect him to be a coverage ace.
But I want to coverage ace so badly, Chad. I'm just so tired of the 2 down off-ball backers. I think this is a situation where they might explore a trade. Just a gut feeling. I haven't heard anything, haven't seen anything. This is a situation where they might acquire a player that none of us are talking about, none of us are thinking of, because Chad listed the free agent market. It's not very inspiring. I don't see many long-term options there, and I don't want the Broncos to draft for the sake of drafting an inside linebacker, especially too high. So maybe a veteran trade could be the way to go. Stay tuned.
Yeah, so we'll see, Michaela. The linebacker, we had the wind taken out of our sails over this weekend. All of the younger, more valuable guys got swooped up by their teams. And that's the irony of the way, Zach, the pendulum has swung once again in the NFL. Remember, linebacker losing value, running back losing value. All of a sudden, man, it's like those guys, the good guys, aren't hitting the market anymore. So just kind of interesting how the NFL is constantly evolving. Okay. Back to the chat. Love you, Michaela. Thank you so much again. Zach, shouts real quick from George. Great pod, guys. Thanks for keeping us informed on the new, all the new stuff on our team. You're welcome, buddy. Broncos for life, MHH for life. Hit the thumbs up, guys. Thank you, George. Zach, the Broncos got a pretty decent deal, if you ask me, on Jarrett Stidham. 2 years, $12 million. What was it? $7 million guaranteed, right? Like, that seems to me to be a pretty strong sign of Stidham willing to probably take maybe a little bit less than he might have been able to have hang on, like possibly extract on the market to remain in Denver with Peyton and continue to be part of this quarterback room that the Broncos could just gush about any chance they get. And as you mentioned too, I think early in the show, they want to keep Zack Wilson too. They want a 3-guy quarterback room once again, but based on the reports, it doesn't sound like they really expect that to happen. Zack Wilson's going to have a market, Zach.
think it's a good gig for Jarrett Stidham. I'm kind of jealous. I mean, $7 million guaranteed to stand around and hold a clipboard, be the number 2. Not bad. But yeah, he got a 2-year, $10 million deal originally when he put pen to paper with the Broncos. I can't remember. What was the guarantee? 5, Chad?
On this deal?
Yeah, the first deal.
Oh, the first deal. Let me look it up while you talk.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just curious about, comparable deals and different years, different markets. The quarterback market always goes up. So I'm with Chad. I think this was a fair deal for both sides, for Stidham for sure, but also the Broncos bringing back someone they're comfortable with, and more importantly, bringing back someone that Bo Nix is comfortable with. If Bo Nix signed off on it, Jarrett Stidham to be his backup, then I support it.
Zach, I'm not sure what the guaranteed money was on that first deal, but it was 2 years, $10 million for Stidham when he joined in 2023 on the heels of Sean Payton being hired. So the other upside to this is that Sean Payton has a quarterback room that is literally handpicked. Even though Stidham came first back in 2023 as kind of as you're seeing here, more of the long-term backup guy that Payton has high confidence in to be a starter if he needed him to be. And then, of course, his handpicked guy in the draft. And Zack Wilson, that is, was a handpicked Payton guy in the sense that Payton was the trigger man on bringing him to Denver. So I like that. It's a room that reflects Sean Payton, the strengths, the requisites, the demands of the position that he has unique for his scheme and his playbook. So it gives me confidence that they brought him back, even though, Zach, obviously re-signing your backup quarterback isn't the sexiest move that, fans are waiting to hear some juicy stuff. Who are the new names? How are we getting better? Well, you were weaker for a second there, for about 3 months, Zach. You didn't have another quarterback under contract besides Bo Nix. So you did take a step forward, getting stronger in making sure you had a plausible stopgap, even though that's what he is. If the Broncos had to actually rely on Stidham, Zach, we saw him for 2 games to end the 2023 season. And it was kind of hit and miss. It was at least solid, though. And if the Broncos, God forbid, I'm just rolling on this wood right now, they had to turn to him for an extended period, the Payton effect gives me confidence that he could at least keep things moving and plausible, so to speak, competitively for the Broncos.
Yeah, it might not be a sexy move, but it's a necessary move because you need a backup quarterback. And if anything were to happen to Bo Nix, I'll join you knocking wood there, Chad. The season's probably over anyway, but people were talking about wanting Jameis Winston for the entertainment factor or whatever. I don't want entertainment. I want a quarterback too that can, like you said, keep things afloat. And that's what Jarrett Stidham is. And I looked it up. He got $5 million guaranteed on the previous contract. So getting only $2 million more 2 years later in this kind of quarterback market is a very fair deal, again, for both sides.
It's basically barely accounting for inflation, right, in terms of the new deal. And I think he could have gotten more, a little bit more, not crazily more. I think he could have gotten more if he would have waited to see what kind of phone calls he got in the legal tampering window. That, to me, again, is a sign. The priority for him, stick around in Denver, be a part of this thing Payton's building. You've got the Auburn ties with the guy ahead of you on the depth chart. Those guys became even closer friends last year. Sean Payton talked a lot at different points about how much the wives hang out and the couples in the quarterback room, they go out, they have dinner and hang out and all that stuff. And that's good for cohesion and team chemistry, locker room chemistry. You want to hear, Jason, the Fraboni deal? I'll give it to you right here. So Mitchell Fraboni, by the way, guys, he was a restricted free agent, right? The Broncos were never going to actually tender him, even at the lowest level, whatever it was, Zach. The original round tender, I think, it would have put him north of $2 million for a long snapper. You just don't pay long snappers that kind of money unless you're the previous Broncos regime, 3 or 4 regimes back, that paid a ridiculous amount of money for Lonnie Paxton. Thank you, Josh McDaniels, for that. But the going rate just isn't more than $2 million. It's a little bit more than the veteran minimum. So instead of tendering him, they forewent, whatever the word for that is, the tender, and just opted to re-sign him on a 3-year deal worth $4.175 million. That's per Ari Myrov of the 33rd team, Zach.
Yeah, a lot of Broncos fans are saying who when Fraboni's name has popped up on social media in terms of the contract. That's a good thing. That's kind of the point. If you haven't heard his name, that he's doing his job well. as a long snapper. It's not to mess up the snap, and he hasn't done that. Not much really to say about him as a long snapper. He snaps the ball longer and better than most other people in the NFL. I'm happy the Broncos have him.
There's a little bit of nuance. I'm with you. It's like, what do you write? What do you say about a long snapper? There is a little bit of nuance though in the sense that, you know, the Broncos just hired a new special teams coordinator, a coveted one at that. And he only had one of his 3 specialists under contract, and that's Will Lutz, the place kicker, who now enters a contract year. So now he's got 2 of the 3. We'll see what the Broncos ultimately end up doing at punter. And by the way, Fraboni, very reliable as a long snapper. There's a comfortability thing that goes into play between kicker, placeholder, and long snapper. And you got to get that punter thing figured out quickly to keep, or at least start establishing chemistry there. But Fraboni, Zach, he's reliable. And the last thing to remember about him is he isn't just one of those guys snaps the ball and then you never see him again. Over the last 3 seasons that he's been a Bronco, he has notched 16 special teams tackles, 8 of which were solo. And if you guys remember that one play where he forced a fumble. So, you know, props to Fraboni.
In punter news, Sam Martin just shook free. He's available now, so maybe the Broncos reunite with their old friend there. I mean, now we're delving into special teams.
Wasn't he a lefty punter?
Was he lefty? I can't remember. Sam Martin era feels so long ago now.
No. Hold on. Left-footed? My left foot. No, he's a righty. My bad. Okay. We've got the Lady D coming in again.
Yeah,
whoa.
Thank you.
Hannah, thank you. Love you. She says, Stidham is a good deal. He's a good QB2. I hope they keep Zack Wilson and keep 3 quarterbacks, but not sure they will. Can't wait to hear who makes the Broncos team this year. Hashtag MHH for life. That's what I love about you. One of the many things, Lady D, and so many of you that are in the chat with us right now and religiously listen and view and communicate with us every single night is you care who's on the team. It's not just the starting lineup. You want to know all 53. You want to know who those 16 dudes are on the practice squad. And you're sick maniacs, just like us. And we love it. But on the subject of Zack Wilson, so Albert Breer of the Mothership, Sports Illustrated / the MMQB, in his free agency column today, Zach, that came out, I had a little write-up on this, guys. Go check it out when you get some time at milehighhuddle.com. But he wrote, quote, teams will sniff around for the next version of Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold last year. So I'll give you Denver's Zack Wilson. A year under Sean Payton did him a lot of good, and the staff there really thinks in the right situation, he could have a big bounce back year in 2025. His best bet might be to find a team with an iffy starter, close quote. So Zach, not unsimilar to the row that Baker had to hoe in Tampa before becoming the guy, or Sam Darnold last year. I mean, let's face it, Darnold had a ridiculous season, but he was not signed to be the guy. The Vikings were always going to draft a quarterback. Ended up being J.J. McCarthy, who suffered an ACL in the preseason after an impressive initial showing. It was a huge bummer. Then they had to turn to him, and the Kevin O'Connell effect took over in the case of Darnold. Whoever signs Darnold, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. The true Darnold is what you saw in that division round playoff game. Anyway, point being here, though, that Zack Wilson, if it's the right situation, again, Breer talking about iffy quarterback situations, you could think of a few that he could be brought in, and whether a guy gets hurt or a guy gets benched, you plug him in. He's got youth on his side, Zach, and now he's got that Peyton shine, let's call it.
I think Peyton's trying to bring him back so he can eventually flip him for a draft pick after he's successfully rehabilitated in the Peyton school, chat. I don't see why else you would re-sign Stidham for 2 more years, $7 million guaranteed, and then bring back Zack Wilson on top of that. I understand the uniqueness of the quarterback room and Bo being happy with the other guys in the room, but you don't need 2 other guys necessarily. And I don't also see a surefire path to a starting job elsewhere for Zack Wilson. So that negotiation is going to be interesting. And when it comes out, I want to know who was in on the Zack Wilson sweepstakes and if there were any.
Indeed. Again, thank you so much. Yeah, Scott's going maybe gas up Wilson, hoping to play the compensatory pick game. You can't flip a guy
Maybe.
that you never play. Yeah, I still think that was the primary motivation. Like if the Broncos would have known, say, Zach, August 31st, that nobody was going to trade for Zack Wilson, does he still stick as the third quarterback? Not to say that he doesn't stay in Denver, but does he end up getting waived and then they try to sneak him onto the practice squad, probably lose him on the waiver wire? If they knew for sure they weren't going to be able to flip him, I have my doubts. I think they probably would have waived him and taken their chances. Oh, dang, someone else claimed him. Oh, well, because, hey, man, that's a roster spot who's never going to see the field. I mean, never is an absolute, but I mean, pretty stable quarterback situation in terms of a rookie that was always going to see the field out of the gates, especially after you knew he won the competition. A very reliable QB2 in Stidham. Wilson, it would have taken a multiple unlikely misfortunes to see the field. Why did you hold on to him? Because you were hoping to trade him. And I see that, Zach and Scott, I can see that there's still the ambition of possibly trying to play up the compensatory pick game.
Yeah, I do hope Zack Wilson goes on and does well in his future endeavors. I liked him more with the Broncos than I thought he would. He's a good guy. He was a good teammate, good soldier, and he helped out Bo Nix. But to that same token, I want as the backup in that room, whoever is the best backup, whoever gives the Broncos a chance to win if Bo Nix does go down. So we'll see. Like I said, it's going to be an interesting negotiation in Zack Wilson's market as it plays out in the coming days.
Indeed. Okay, I'm going back. We're doing pretty good on time, 31 minutes. But I'm just checking to see if there are any topics or any news. This is an interesting question from William. Could the Steelers go after Wilson? That's one of those iffy quarterback situations. I could see like maybe they bring back Zach. All the signs so far, I shouldn't say all the signs, but many of the signs point to them bringing back Justin Fields. Russ, out of here. Maybe he still is brought back. We'll see. But that's the kind of situation where I could see him thriving, where you go into a semi-unstable quarterback situation. Unstable, Zach, in the sense with Fields that we know they benched him last year. So it kind of defies belief. Even though he had a winning record when they did so, why would you like go out of your way to re-sign that guy? If you're doing that, it's got to be a financially team-friendly situation. But I'm digressing here a bit, knowing that if he's been benched before, he's probably likely anyway to be benched again. You bring in Zack Wilson in the event that happens, could be a shot in the arm. He's definitely a much more proficient passer than Fields, and he's got a lot of athleticism to him that is a little bit underappreciated, I think. Not to make too much out of him, but I could see that being a fit, Zach.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like just Fields, he got benched and he's not a long-term option because he's really a horrible passer. He's a great athlete, great runner, but I don't see it in the NFL in his future as a passer. Zack Wilson, I think they're going to aim a little higher, though, Chad. They have to. They just brought in DK Metcalf. They have Pickens. They have a championship-level defense right now with TJ Watt. Again, I've heard Sam Darnold as an option. I heard maybe Kirk Cousins as an option. If Zack Wilson played this past season under Peyton and he had a Sam Darnold type year, then I could see the Steelers being a contender for him. But I think they're going to shoot a little higher.
Yeah, so thank you for that. And by the way, Dom, on the whole Broncos want to re-sign Wilson thing, that was Diana Rossini of The Athletic that was officially reporting that, although we've generally known throughout the offseason that they like him. How much of that you want and would like to keep him around? How much of that you want to believe in terms of is it real or is it them trying to still oddly inflate value? We leave up to you guys, but to deduce. But string guys like you got to love Wilson's arm. You just wonder what a coach like Peyton could do with the kid. Well, you saw it was a small kind of preview / sample size, Zach, last summer. I wouldn't say he was like blew the doors down, right? Like going, oh my goodness, but he looked pretty dang good. He looked more than serviceable, but you had to view that slightly, Zach, through the lens of, going against third team competition.
Yeah, you really can't base anything off that one small sample size. I'm in agreement there.
A lot of questions about will Vaughn come back? Guys, you never say never. He's obviously one of the genuine Denver Bronco Mount Rushmore guys. Pivotal, legendary. You know that Denver's still where his heart is at. I don't think that the situation is right for Vaughn to come back. If they, let's say, Zach, this time, last year you had this Baron Browning, Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper. You knew for sure Bonito was going to at least play out his rookie deal. You knew that Sean Payton loved Jonathan Cooper. And honestly, it was looking like if Baron Browning could stay healthy, he was going to go on to have that Nick Bonito-esque type of breakout season. And a lot of those presuppositions were exploded as Browning got hurt again, then got traded. Jonathan Cooper goes on to give you double-digit sacks. Nick Bonito becomes a freaking all-pro. You just don't see that coming. But let's say none of those things came, and Baron Browning gets traded, Nick Bonito's forced in, and it's kind of a so-so season. Jonathan Cooper with another 8 sacks for you. Bonito gives you 7 or whatever. Then you're going, well, I could see and by the way, in this alternate football universe, Zach, you don't get 10 combined sacks from Jonah Ellis and Dondrea Tillman. Then you cut to this offseason, it would make a lot more sense. There'd be a lot more room and incentive and reasoning for bringing Vaughn in, but it's a packed room. And Zach, this is not even, when he left this is not 2021 anymore. This is a lot of waters under that bridge. Vaughn's very long in the tooth. So I don't see it happening now, but I do think Zach, when he ultimately decides to hang it up, comes back, hopefully resigns as a Bronco, retires a Bronco.
The Broncos also have a GM that has no investment, emotionally or otherwise, in Von Miller. George Payton didn't draft Von. He didn't win a Super Bowl with Von. He's the one that traded Von Miller.
Vaughn, yeah.
And I always say it, and David said it in the chat, an X is an X for a reason, and they got a good haul for him at the time. Vaughn went on and had success without the Broncos, and now he's getting older. And I saw a lot of Buffalo fans on Twitter say that they couldn't wait for Vaughn to be off the field, off the team. So, everyone, Father Time catches up to everyone, Chad, and now I think it's Vaughn's time.
We've got Leroy jumping in on Facebook. Great to see you, my dog. He says, if the Broncos are in desperate need of an inside linebacker, they might need to get him at pick 20 in the draft. I'm down for that. I don't want Spillane. He's 31 years old. I think we need to be younger at that position. Go Broncos, buck him. Honestly, the way it's trending is you bring back Cody Barton and you draft a guy. If it unfolds in the first round the way it's looking like it's going to unfold, Genty's gone, Warren's gone, Loveland's gone. You get to pick 20, knowing the depth of tight ends, running backs in the class. I could see the Broncos taking a Jihad Campbell. I could see them even in the second round trying to get a Carson Schwessinger. There's some Demetrius Knight maybe a little bit later in the draft. And there are some interesting guys throughout this draft that, you got to keep your expectations somewhat in check. But there are some interesting dudes in this draft class at linebacker. So regardless of how free agency shakes out, maybe they bring in a Spillane or they bring back a Barton. I think it's a virtual guarantee they draft an inside linebacker. I'm just not sure it would be at pick 20, Leroy.
Yeah, it becomes a need if they can't get anyone in on the open market. Spillane, to me, if you had to compare Spillane and Barton, I would take Spillane because he offers a little more athleticism. But the point remains is that neither are long-term options, and we both want that Fred Warner 10-year linebacker, next Luke Kuechly, whatever. That has to come in the draft, Chad, and I think it's one of a few positions, including running back and tight end, that Denver would be wise to double dip on if they could. Inside linebacker.
We're hearing, by the way, from Chase, this was at 6:36 Mountain Time, so 20 minutes ago, that Mike Kliss is reporting the Broncos are negotiating with DJ Jones, the defensive tackle. Might be bringing him back before the legal tampering window opens, so we'll stay tuned for that and keep our ear to the floor on any developments. Glenn wants to know, he says, does the Devontae Adams signing by the Rams now lead to Cooper Kupp being released? Right, we know that they were maybe looking to trade him in an ideal world. He says, I can't see anyone trading for him. He should be our receiver priority, then Chris Godwin. Dude, if this was 2022, I'd be more on board for the big slot Cooper Kupp guy. But he's, I don't know. I think if you're looking for that immediate impact, that aspect also of explosive, Godwin has more upside for you. Not to crap on Kupp. He's one of the best receivers of the era, Zach. But I'm just not sure relative to what the Broncos have now. he comes in, he does a lot of the similar things that the guys they already have do, whereas Godwin, he could bring something a little bit different as that number 2 receiver, the Z, as it were, and allow, Marvin Mims Jr. to still play some slot, get moved around, be that weapon, that Joker-esque weapon, even though he's a receiver.
You can make the case that wide receiver shouldn't be a priority at all for the Broncos this offseason, at least in free agency. But I don't think it's arguable that if there is a priority, it needs to be Godwin over Cooper Kupp. If Godwin won't hit the open market, maybe because he'd be so in demand. Cooper Kupp, they can't find a trade partner for him, LA, because no one wants him. He's older, he's broken down, he's injury prone. Great player, like Chad said, during his heyday, but Puka Nacua is the alpha there now, and Devontae Adams is the number 2. So he's going to be available, but I'm not throwing my dollars at him for the same reason I don't want to chase Deebo Samuel. Chris Godwin, though, is a different story. If he shakes free, if he gets loose, I am making that phone call if I'm George Paton.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. George, pick up Vaughn on a one-day deal so he can retire a Bronco. That's I just don't think Vaughn's ready to retire unless there's information since we went live that I'm not aware of. I don't think he's quite ready for that.
Should be.
Zach, was there a report? Some of this stuff I'm having a hard time keeping straight with how much flurry. I don't think correct me if I'm wrong, could be a recency bias thing, but do you recall there being this much action the day before legal tampering opens?
I mentioned this the other day. Like, it used to be where free agency started on the day of the new league year. Now it starts. And then it started with the tampering period. Now it starts a week before the tampering period. So yeah, it's been increasingly more active.
So Dre Greenlaw, was he re-signed?
I don't think so. I think he's still available or will be.
So he's 27, 6 foot, 230 pounds, Niners. Let's see. Last year, though, only 2 starts, 2 games that he appeared in. And the year prior, though, as a 15-game starter in San Fran, he delivered. He's basically, before that, he had back-to-back years of 100-plus tackle seasons. He's got 3 career interceptions. Zach, in fact, his first 2 years, but he's more of like an edge guy, right? Like I guess inside linebacker / not edge. What's a better way to put it? Like a Wesley Woodyard, if you guys recall, like a weak side linebacker. He plays in space, but he's not exactly an edge guy.
I think more like a better version of Drew Sanders too, where like he can play both, but just he's way better at inside, in my opinion. And yeah, he's another option for sure. We didn't talk about him a few minutes ago, but injury prone. Another team could overpay him based on the name, and if that's the case, then you have to look heavily at the draft.
That's the other thing here, guys. Andrew, what's up, dude? Andrew Lampy jumping in. Good to see you, big dog. Says, hey, all, hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Thanks for all the hard work, keeping us in the know. You know it, brother. Thank you for being with us. Great to see you. Hope you've been doing well, big dog. But the way this cookie's crumbling, again, it points to me to like the Broncos potentially bringing back Cody Barton, depending on what the market turns out to look like for him. And then a heavy emphasis on the draft and really hoping that this is the year that Drew Sanders stays healthy so that you can get a solid look at him throughout an entire OTA, throughout an entire training camp and preseason, and genuinely have confidence in projecting him as a starter, because they talked about that, both Paytons at the combine, Zach, their belief that he factors greatly into the future plans, aka starter, aka officially announcing too, by the way, he's back at inside linebacker on the permanent. So maybe the Broncos don't view inside linebacker as desperate a need internally, Zach, as we do from the outside looking in, if they're truly that high on Sanders. But I still think at the very least they bring in a veteran, whether it's a re-sign like a Barton or Sternad. I prefer Barton if they're going to do that, and a draft pick.
It's one thing to be hopeful for Drew Sanders, the player. It's another thing to hinge the entire positional group on his development. That's a yikes factor for me. I'm signing one if I could, maybe a Spillane, maybe a Greenlaw, whoever, and I'm definitely drafting one. That position needs an overhaul because everyone's forgetting that not only is Alex Singleton coming off an injury, Chad, he's getting older. He's 31 or 32, so he's not the future either. They need 2 new starters, and they can use a couple backups as well.
Yeah, 31 just turned in December. So he's entering technically Alex Singleton, his age 32 season.
Right.
And by the way, thank you for reminding us of this, Mr. Producer. The initial reports after Vaughn was released was that there's mutual interest in him returning to Buffalo. It's just that all of the guaranteed money on that initial deal he signed with the Bills a couple years back was basically in the books. So if he sticks around, it's going to be under some new contractual parameters, meaning less money. If we bring you back, you're coming back for less money, and he might be willing to do that because we know how close the Bills are to genuinely winning a Super Bowl. So, as great as it would be from a storyline and a feel-good kind of perspective to see Vaughn return to Denver right now, Zach, there are multiple arrows pointing away from it from a probability perspective.
I hate to say it, but I could see Vaughn joining a divisional rival if he wants to be the hired gun, like a mercenary for year to year now in this stage of his career. Go to Kansas City or the Chargers or the Raiders. I could for sure see him playing the Broncos twice a year.
Man, that would be hard for his. That would be a hit on. This is the fan in me now speaking, but that would definitely be a hit. I think for Vaughn's legacy as a Bronco. I'll disagree with you on that. I'd be surprised if he did that. No, not a surprise. I agree with you that he's entering that mercenary window. You know, like we've seen a lot of prolific pass rushers as they age. I mean, think about like the way it turned out for Dwight Freeney toward the end. You know, it's like 1 year deal here, 1 year deal there, etc. I could definitely see that being in the near future for Vaughn. But man, if you're Vaughn, you got to be thinking about that, including from a business perspective, because man, true legacy players, believe it or not, they can go once they retire, they can go on to make still a lot of money based on their legacy with one team. You risk kind of screwing that up if you go sign with any of those 3 teams. Chiefs, Chargers, probably the least impactful in terms of legacy would be Chargers, but then again, the Chargers are on the upswing. You know, they're not as hated by Broncos country, obviously, as the Chiefs and the Raiders, at least not this period of Broncos kind of canon. But they are the next best competitive team besides the Chiefs, Zach.
Yeah, string guy said bite your tongue, so I did just that. Listen, I hope I'm wrong. I could just crazier things have happened in the NFL. You know, look at Brett Favre, for example. If he can put on a Vikings jersey, then Vaughn can put on a Raiders jersey. But maybe the Eagles, I think Brandon Graham retore his triceps in the Super Bowl. That could be an option for them. Scott also mentioned the Lions and I think the Commanders. So yeah, I mean, any of the contenders now, Vaughn could be a suitor for.
Yeah. By the way, I'm tripping on Greenlaw. I'm looking at his PFR, his Pro Football Reference, and the first three of his first 4 years, they had him lined up main position as right outside linebacker, left outside linebacker, and then the last 2 as just straight inside linebacker for what it's worth. So my bad. But guys, we're about out of time on this. So this is your 2-minute warning for any burning questions. Get them in the chat. I think we've kind of hit on all the main news points. In case you missed it, if you're just joining us, the Broncos re-signed Jarrett Stidham, the quarterback, 2-year deal, $12 million. They re-signed the veteran long snapper Mitchell Fraboni, 3 years, whatever it was, 4.7 million, something like that. And then the big dominoes to fall relative to impacting the Broncos in free agency. We already know Zach Bond re-signed by the Eagles, but Nick Bolton, the linebacker, re-signed by Kansas City. Aaron Jones, the running back, Zach, re-signed, and multiple other very interesting linebackers re-signed by their respective teams. So that pool of potential, impact players to come in and fill some genuine roster holes has dwindled. So it'll be interesting to see how the Broncos maneuver around this starting tomorrow, guys. Tomorrow's going to be a wild MHH pod day, so it's going to be fun.
Yeah, cannot wait, Chad. A couple other linebackers that were off the board. Jamie and for anyone who's wondering, anyone keeping track of this, Jamie and Sherwood from New York, he re-signed from the Jets. And also Ernest Jones, another inside linebacker option, he re-signed with the Rams. So I'm interested to see which way they go. We know they're going to target, offensive help and defensive help over the course of the next couple months, but how are they going to attack inside linebacker with the market drying up so quickly?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it shakes out. Yes, Holland, Glenn is still in the cards, and safety is one of the big need positions. It is interesting, for what it's worth, Zach, that PJ Locke remains on the roster, only in the sense that he was one of the three big potential. Everybody, every swing and predicting the three being in no particular order: Singleton, Locke, and for whatever reason, including John Franklin Myers in that arithmetic was always ridiculous. But he's still on the roster. So I think that tells you that the Broncos do value and love them some PJ Locke. They might not view safety as dire of a need as we do from the outside looking in. However, Sean Payton did say on that couch, talking to Kay Adams at the Super Bowl, that they want to improve the middle, and he specified linebacker and safety. So Javon Holland is in the cards. That's a long-winded way, Glenn, of saying Javon Holland's still in the cards, could reunite with one of his former defensive backfield mates in Brandon Jones in the Mile High City.
Yeah, you mentioned tomorrow's going to be wild, and these bigger name free agents are going to come off the board very quickly in the morning, and Javon Holland is going to be among them. I feel like he's going to be costly, going to cost a pretty penny, but I feel like the Broncos should be in on him, and that's definitely a name. Also, one name off the board, we talked about linebackers, Chad, really quickly. Tight ends, Mike Gesicki re-signed. He's not available any longer for Denver either.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's the one name relative to impacting the Broncos that we had neglected to mention up to this point. So there's still Evan Ingram's still out there, guys. Some other names, of course, Juwan Johnson.
Yep.
Tyler Conklin is a name. Gerald Everett's a name. I'm just throwing the top names at the position, okay? Mo Alley Cox, miss me on him. Austin Hooper actually is a guy that I could see making a lot of sense for the Broncos as a short-term Band-Aid, etc. So David Youngkin, evening, guys. Do you see a signing tomorrow? Thank you for the super chat, David. Really appreciate you, brother. What do you think, Zach? Do you see the Broncos actually making an outside signing tomorrow?
Yeah, I think Juwan Johnson's going to be a Bronco at like 12:01 a.m. There's so much smoke with that, Chad, with him playing for Sean Payton. The Broncos needing some move-type, joker-type tight end, and that's what Juwan Johnson is. He won't break the bank, I don't think, and he would fill a major need going into the draft while also not precluding the Broncos from, drafting a tight end potentially in round one.
That's right. Thank you, String Guy, my friend. Come on, all hit the like button for the Best Broncos podcast. Go Broncos, go MHH. Thank you, buddy, guys. We do always appreciate those likes. It helps us out tremendously. And by the way, String Guy, appreciate the comments on the Bridge the Gap video. Appreciate you, big dog. Very, very cool. Always love the feedback as well. But we have a few messages for you here, guys, before we dip on out. Don't leave quite yet.
I literally cannot believe it's been 53 minutes already. You guys make this absolutely entertaining and wonderful for both of us. Thank you all so much. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a follow on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and don't forget about Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys haven't done so, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. Also on Instagram, you can follow us at mile_high_huddle. But if anything, y'all, please, 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 very important that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
That it does, guys. Hey, listen, before I do I know a lot of you will be interested in this. I'm going to give you 15 seconds. Check this out. When you get a second, I'm going to drop the link in the chat. I want to see some comments. Give me your thoughts on the video. But this is what I'm talking about with String Guy, and then I'm going to do some shouts. 15 seconds of the new Bridge the Gap video Give me your guys' thoughts. You'll see your boy being the singer guy. It's kind of fun.
Looking down the slope, we topple. We're playing fast and loose with what it means to empathize, to be alive, to understand this world.
Okay, that's enough. Go check it out, guys. I'm going to drop the link to the single. I want your comments. Give it a genuine listen for your boy, and a like and a comment, because I love hearing the feedback. That's like 99% of the incentive why I do what I do on the musical side as a fun thing, just a hobby, is to get that feedback. But guys, a mile-high salute and a special shout-out to the Super Chat superstars and supporters tonight, really helping us keep the lights on in a off-season window, like the Duchess, Michaela Parker, the Lady D, Deanna Hendry. By the way, I'll check Twitter. Make sure you reply to me on that, Lady D. The Papa Bear, Max Rio, Taylor Christensen, George Fox on Facebook, Andrew Lampy on Facebook. Great to see you, buddy. And last but certainly not least, so consistent, David Youngkin. Much love and respect, you guys. And again, tomorrow, keep it locked with us, because you're going to have Broncos for breakfast on the Bright. A lot of moving parts, so be ready for that show. And then Zach and I back in the saddle to cap off the day one of legal tampering. It's going to be wild. Can't wait.
Cannot wait is right. Have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll see you tomorrow night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.